Look at our community. Starting like I think I did a teaching on this, but starting in about the 50s or 60s, you've seen the dwindling of marriage really and family as well. And of course, we talked about through the feminist movement, through all these kind of movements, and even now we see so many other little movements. One of the big things, though, and I was reading a book a little bit about a culture in Africa, cultures in West Africa. One of the first things that they do, of course, they teach manhood, women, and all that, but they get the daughter a husband, kind of, and their system is a little bit different because they got the dowries and different things like that. But they get they get the daughter a husband, and or vice versa, son or wife. But the families come together to do it. It's kind of seen as a communal family thing. When you go back into even African American history, many years ago, people one of the reasons why people got together is for that word I use. I don't know if that's a real word, but survivability. Because in a harsh environment, in a harsh climate, in an economically disadvantaged climate, the people seeing that they only had themselves. We're going to have to survive by a man and a woman working together, of course, with others, whether it be cousins, grandmothers, neighbors, everybody working together to see how to figure this thing out. And to kind of give another little tip to Africa, I seen a video talking about the Somalian people. And what it was saying was how they're so prosperous outside of their country, typically in Canada, the United States, and so forth. When you say prosperous, you say how? Well, prosperous in the area of business. A lot of them own restaurants, and sometimes they go into different little cell phone businesses and other little businesses. And a lot of the people said trust. They said trust was a big trust. The values of helping one another, the values of loaning one another money in their system, which is kind of like a susu, but I guess it's a little bit different. But borrowing money from each other, helping each other, cultivating one another. When they go to a new country, new city, they seek out the other Somalians so they can join together and they can build together. And I think one of the biggest Somalian populations out in Minnesota, I think Minneapolis. But they build on the basis of trust, and that's very powerful. In order to build anything, you got to have a lot of trust, and that leads me to today's toxic culture. Now we know that a lot of our women are single. We know that some of our men are single, or in some ways, the last to get married and the first to get divorced. The issue that you have with that is, it's a lot of different issues, but it actually is a lot of different issues you have with that. But the thing you have to understand is, if you were married and together 60, 70 years ago, why such the big change now? And as I talked about Somalian people, one of them is trust, but one of them is getting on and I don't like, let's not get too new agey here, but one of them is getting on a right frequency to where survivability becomes one of your top goals. Not just the ability to survive, but the ability to plan, think, strategic, and be wisdom. That's why to truly be a couple now, people are going to have to fight to be a couple, because you're going to deal with some economic disadvantages. You're going to deal with brainwashing in education and those type of things. You're going to deal with the music and the culture of the music, which I call it like a whore culture. From the men are promoting it. I'm what the men are saying, the women are saying. Then you get the movements like I don't know if it's MTOR or whatever, that type of movement. The guys are that we don't want the women in the Western America, which I understand. That hurt. Kevin Samuels, rest in peace. I didn't hear a lot of him, but some of those type of things. So you got so many frustrating distractions: the music, the killing, the violence. One of the things that's always tough is when a people unify and trust. That's how they build. When they brought the last slaves over from in Africa town, which is outside, I think, Mobile, Alabama, those people were destitute, poor, and obviously, didn't have much. But one of the ways that they got together, one of the ways they was able to flourish, if you will, was because they looked at each other and said, "We're all we have." The first thing they did was build a church. See, church is your base. And see, one of the things that people don't know about the history of churches is churches get a lot of flack. I know it, especially mega churches. But here's the thing: a lot of times in the old neighborhoods, church was where you found what you needed to survive. So you need a plumber, he went to your church. You needed a lawnmower person, he went to your church. You needed a seamstress, she went to your church. The church was seen as one of the pillars of the community, but it wasn't until, I don't know, I'd probably say at least 20 years, probably about 20 years ago, where you start to see the mega church rise, and it went from more of a community where the church was either 5 miles from the house, 10 miles from the house, maybe about 2 or 3 miles, till you going 30, 40 miles to go to a big church. And there's nothing wrong with a big church per se, but the connection, the intimacy of being connected kind of started to dwindle. That very so reminds me of people in the country migrating into cities. When you migrate into these big cities, you kind of lose that connection of neighborhood, of family, of communal feel, of cooking for one another, fellowshipping for one another, helping one another economically. And that's one thing that kind of happens in the city. It's so big that it perpetuates a mindset of, I'll say this, especially now for sure, it perpetuates a mindset of, I have so many options. I mean, I just got so many relationship options that a lot of times people actually they actually end up feeling internally they don't have a lot of options. So you turn to online dating, you turn to, just sleeping around or just trying to find a quick fix because humanly, you need that desire, you need that physical touch, you need that emotional touch, but it's hard to get. And speaking on those three things I just named, see, culture is about intimacy, it's about closeness, it's about traditions, it's about raising children to know the right from wrong. That's why when you see different cultures, in fact, it's very good to pay attention to culture. You don't have to compare, but pay attention. You look at the Hispanics or the Mexicans, I don't know which one is more appropriate. You see how they work together. You see how they cook for one another. If you maybe people that have never seen it up north in another area, but one thing Hispanic do, if you got an apartment complex or housing neighborhood, a lot of times you'll see Hispanic from one end of a house, apartment complex, one side of it, shall I say, go to another side and bring food, homemade food. You might see a group of women congregating. What they typically do is you go from that congregating to, if you hear about a job, you're going to let them know, I'll babysit your kids for cheap or maybe free. The community aspect of it also goes to economics. It goes to resources. It goes to, if I own this car lot or this auction, if you need a car, your son, your daughter need a car, guess who's going to have a car? Not only are they going to get a car, they're probably going to get it for cheaper, because if I meet a foreigner that needs that help, I'm probably not going to charge him cheaper. Why? Because he's really not a part of my culture. And that's kind of tough to hear, but that is the way it goes. So when you're talking culture, you're talking economics. You're talking pulling your resources and working together. You're talking somebody to make love with and touch and hold. And these are very important things. I mean, I remember when I was talking about the power of touch. That's actually a real thing, to be able to touch someone, hold someone, love someone. That's a certain type of power. Being in close proximity to one another, that creates what I would call cohesion. Cohesion is a part of being close to one another, laughing, crying, even the tough times. See, and that's really big because this kind of Hollywood version of relationships and even marriage has gotten us to where we think it's just being beauty and bees all night long. And it's not. Sometimes the car breaks down and y'all don't have no money to fix it, and it's only one car. But one thing I've been taught, and wisdom is about life and about perspective and about looking and learning. One of the things I've been taught is sometimes the hardships are bring you closer. Yeah, because you have to drop the pride. You might say, it's my car, it's mine, it's my. We took that West idea of me, my, and I. But sometimes it goes from it's my car to I gotta let my mama use my car. I gotta let my brother use my car. I gotta let my girl use my car, my husband. And that's really big. It sounds small, but that's really big, because the only way you build community, culture, and relationships is by trusting one another and minimizing the self, minimizing the arrogance. That's why, I don't want to lash out at the women, but that's why one thing that you've seen them promote lately, really for the decades, is the degree culture, the me, myself, and I culture, the moving up to the system culture. If you're not elevating your people, if you're not elevating your culture, if you're not elevating your family, you're going to find yourself in a tough position, because no matter how much you rise economically in corporate America, you cannot rise over your group. You know what I'm saying? You can't rise over your group. So you have to kind of look at it like, how can we do it, on kind of like a one accord and together. So that's something that you also you always see. So I just want to share a few of those things, kind of, and also I want to give a recommendation of a book that I have here as well. But a lot of it, guys, I see is changing our mental perspective. It's embodying a little bit more humility. It's staying realistic in the expectations of it, and it's looking at things from a truly humble, a truly cultural, and a truly righteous perspective, man. One of the big things I would say, do, man, if you can, study other cultures, and it's not always to say, well, we're gonna do it like they do it in East Africa. We're gonna do it like they do it in South America. That's not what I'm saying. But when you study these cultures and stuff, you begin to see how you can kind of learn a lesson or two from it that can connect you with it. And that's very important. Even when you're talking about a susu, when you're talking about these other areas like that, I'll tell you something very funny. I didn't even realize what a susu was. In a lot of these other countries, I know the Caribbeans and the West Africans practice it was as a form of rotating credit system, and I didn't even really know what that was. So that goes back to culturally not learning certain things and how important it is to build your culture to really understand certain economic methods and certain things to really help you to really grow. Because a lot of times too, and it's very important too, when you look at our community, when you look at our culture, you look at the economic thing, and one of the first things people say is, we know we don't have no money, and that's, to some degree, that's correct. And sometimes the money and all that type of stuff, it influences the relationships. It does. Let's not be no kidding. But you have to get to a point where you understand the only way to build a sustainable economy, the only way to build sustainable equity, is to first start trusting one another as a base to build. You can't say, you know what, we just want we just want business. We want business. No, because think about this. If I got a Jamaican restaurant, the people who are going to come to my restaurant, they're not just going to be Jamaican, but a lot of times they are going to be Jamaicans. You know what I'm saying? Because why? Because I have affinity to them. I'm close to them. I have a culture to them. So what we got to do as a people is get back to understanding the culture of who we are. And like I said earlier, you only build that through cohesion. You build it through trust. You build it through respect. You build it through forgiving. That is a huge one, man. We got to start forgiving each other. I can't, I ain't going to stay mad at my girl. Why? Because I need her. She should stay mad at me. Why? Because she need me. And like I said, they've perpetuated this cycle of me, myself, and I so much that people don't realize it's dangerous to the human psyche. So you alone, you're a little frustrated. Yeah, you got a little money, you got a little two-seater, but you're frustrated. You're eating bad. You're not eating healthy. You got high blood pressure. You got diabetes. You're buying other toys to satisfy you. Why? Because you're missing the human element that is needed to sustain a culture, and even health, man, health and nutrition. To make it in this American life, I always say you need one another. You need your family. And I know a lot of families broken, but you need each other. If two people, man and a woman, say, they're going on a health journey, guess what? When you go on that health journey together, you're more apt to support each other on that health journey. Why? Because we're in this together. I'm telling you, if you ever want to divide and kind of conquer a community, we're talking about community, culture, and all that, we're tying together family, you disrupt the people. And the only way the people come together is if they value themselves as couples and people over their possessions. When you value yourselves over possessions, you'll be able to make it through the storms, through the economic issues, through the job losses, through the health crisis, through the scarcity issues. And if you don't believe me, look at our people. How did they make it 150 years ago? How were they able to survive 150 years ago out of poverty, out of slavery, and marry and have all these children and still make it and still eat? Now, of course, people will say they were poor. Well, they were poor, but them beans sure fed them. That livestock that they had out there fed them. It is a mental mindset. And the economic side plays a part in it. Do you own your businesses, or you know all that? But also, are you patronizing your businesses? Are you speaking positively about your business? Are you writing positive reviews? Are you being kind to one another? A lot of us think this stuff is so deep. It's really basic cultural principles of how you relate to one another, how you supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? It's simple stuff, but it's not simple because when you're misled by a dominant culture, propagandized type of culture, you have to actively start to reprogram your mind into loving one another, forgiving one another, being a little more soft to one another, being a little bit more kind to one another, giving one another a little bit more room, a leeway, knowing it's not going to be like the movies on Hollywood and TV. So all these things tie together. Your economics, pulling your resources, job creation, fighting for certain stuff, whether it be fighting from a law standpoint, fighting for certain things, health and nutrition, cooking for one another, learning about health together, learning about how to eat properly, working out together. That's another big one. The emotional support, emotionally, it feels good to have somebody. Spiritually, of course, you need somebody because, what the Proverbs just say. He said, may the breast of your wife satisfy you always. And then what did God say? He said it's not good for the man to be alone. He said, so I'm gonna make her helper suitable for him, suitable for his mission, his goal, his purpose, suitable for him. So what we gotta do is we gotta get back into a mindset of serving, loving, and helping one another. And that you can even on social media. Maybe that's a like, maybe that's a repost, maybe that's instead of going off. I'm gonna say a little something a little bit more kind, a little bit more a little bit more kind, a little bit more respectful than just to go off and just to put down and just to do all these type of things that the culture celebrates, especially the music. I mean, you listen to the music, man. That's all it does. Fighting. Um, but I just wanted to offer this, and I want to share this book. I don't know if y'all can really see it. Let's see. Oh, it's hard to see. Hard to really see it. But this book is called The Secrets of Happy Relationship by Jenny Hare. The Secrets of Happy Relationships by Jenny Hare. I read this book. I got this book when I was at my prior job, and I think it's really good. Really simple, little practical tips that I think you can almost take on and kind of study. Even if you're single, obviously, even if you're in a relationship, or even if you broke up and you're out of a relationship, I think it offers good practical tips um, on relationships, on looking at it from a standpoint of kind of reflecting, looking at the self. So you can maybe look at your bookstore, maybe look at the library. It's called Secrets of Happy Relationships by Jenny Hare. That's JENNYHARE. Once again, JENNYHARE. So 25 minutes in, I'm gonna end this episode or this lesson or whatever. Be blessed, guys. Take care, and God bless.